Good afternoon, and thank you for having this forum and allowing us the opportunity to share with you. As you can see, there's a lot of very passionate people around these issues, and we're glad to have the opportunity to be able to share it with you this afternoon. So I'm speaking to you this evening with three hats. One is a parent of middle school and high school students. Second is a middle school mathematics teacher. And third is a professor at the University of Rochester, working as the co-director of the Warner Center for Professional Development and Education Reform and the executive director of the Mathematics Outreach Division. My colleagues and I have been active in mathematics education, promoting high-quality mathematics instruction, working with dozens of districts locally, and have been involved at the state and national level for over 20 years. My comments this evening relate primarily to the Common Core standards in mathematics and their implementation. Our message is about the need for clarity as we articulate our concerns. We need to be very clear about what we as leaders in New York State want to take on and what change we want to effect. As we have listened to teachers, parents, students, administrators, and the media discussion, we have noted that most of the public outcry about the Common Core standards is a confusion or muddling of the issues. Many make comments about the standards. My youngest son even came home last week and commented, "I don't really like these Common Core standards." But often the reality is that they're talking about other related issues. Issues such as challenges related to the immediate implementation of the Common Core in grades 3-8 in New York State, and then algebra this year. The curriculum materials being used to implement the standards, such as the modules developed by a contract with New York State. Third, assessments developed by Pearson for New York State, measuring students' learning of the standards. And fourth, New York State's APPR implementation measuring teacher effectiveness using these scores. If you actually made a tally chart this evening with these 5 categories, standards, implementation, curriculum, assessment, and teacher evaluation, you could record where speakers' concerns lie. And very few lie with the standards themselves. So in terms of the standards, conceptually, we believe that the Common Core state standards are not necessarily a bad thing. As a matter of fact, they have the potential to be a very good thing for students in New York State. The Common Core standards for mathematics content and practices call for instruction to support students in developing understanding, procedural fluency, critical thinking, and problem solving. They were written based on available research and benchmarked against expectations of high-performing countries. For New York State, moving from the 2005 standards in mathematics to the Common Core is actually a big step forward. The 2005 math standards, written by a relatively small group of educators in a short time frame, did not require our students to build conceptual and procedural understandings. While we might have felt some comfort in our students' test scores rising, this was primarily due to the ability to predict what was going to be on the tests. If we look at other tests, such as the NAEP, New York State scores actually continue to decline. So that being said, the Common Core standards are not perfect. The authors have said that the standards should be seen as a living document and should continue to reflect the lessons that we learn about mathematics, teaching, and learning. However, on the second point of clarity, there are some serious and detrimental issues for our children and teachers in New York State related to the implementation of these standards. Out of all 45 states and 2 territories that have adopted the Common Core standards, only New York, Kentucky, and West Virginia have forged ahead implementing the standards and assessments. Other states, such as Georgia, Delaware, and Utah, have spent time educating their stakeholders, including extensive professional development and developing resources to support teachers as they move from one set of standards to another. Other states, such as Pennsylvania, phased in their implementation, first implementing K2 and then 3-5. These states have been responsive to the difficulties of making this shift and have responded, asking for waivers and making revisions to their original plans outlined in the Race to the Top funding. A third point of clarity, curriculum. One of the ways that New York State Ed has said that they're supporting the immediate implementation of the Common Core is to provide optional curriculum, which they call modules. The company that received the multi-million-dollar contract from our New York State taxpayer dollars is called Common Core, Inc., a name that they have had for over a decade. Didn't they get just lucky? Common Core Inc. has developed these mathematics modules and ELA, but over a very short period of time, whereas curriculum takes years to write and field test. There is significant confusion between the standards and the interpretation of the standards written in these modules, not the least of which is the name. These modules are written by a company very quickly, are not completed, and are one interpretation. They are not the standards. And then there's assessment. Similar to its curriculum development, New York State has forged ahead with creating its own assessments via contracts with Pearson to assess national standards, which national experts in the field are working on in PARCC and Smarter Balance. Other states have been piloting and field testing new assessments rather than New York State implementing actual assessment and field test items at the same time, as Dr. McGowan spoke about. Again, let's look at how others are implementing assessment. Florida, Oregon, and California are blending assessments, waiting for national assessments to be operational and requesting waivers, and proposing moratoriums on testing. The Common Core standards provide the opportunity to collaborate nationally and learn from the work of others. It is time for New York to stop working in isolation, to stop thinking that being first is the same as being best. As a community, we need to be clear that it is not necessarily about fighting the standards. They have not been implemented or assessed in a way that we can begin to determine their effectiveness in terms of mathematical learning, but to propose a revised implementation and assessment plan and apply for variances at the national level that would allow teachers and students in this transition to be unharmed, and at the same time allow us to support students and teachers, draw on national resources and learnings, and collect and analyze data to determine what works, not to jump into immediate and abrupt implementation tied to evaluation policies that harm students and teachers.